Hello, my friends. Welcome to the private podcast by the Authors Allies Roundtable. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik, and I'm thrilled to have you here. So, you are either, I'm just guessing here, in the process of writing a book, or maybe you already wrote a book. Congratulations! That is so exciting. What's happening now? Seriously, what happens now? How exactly are you planning to get that book out into the world for so many people to see? For a lot of us writers, the writing is the easy part. But then when we go to put our book out into the world, it gets to be a little confusing because there are so many options and possibilities. If you're anything like most authors, this is possibly a side gig for you, and there's just only so many hours in the day. So, in this private podcast, we are briefly going to touch on the 10 steps to creating your ultimate book marketing plan. We're going to talk about planning your marketing, doing your one sheet biography, doing a book sales info sheet, putting it all together in a media kit, starting and growing an email list, creating a simple website, creating social media posts, getting on podcasts, ads and promotions, and book tours and in person events. Holy cow. I think I'm almost out of breath now. That was quite a list. But don't worry, we're going to break it down for you and try to simplify as much as we can. Stay tuned as we break things down. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and we're happy to help you. Let's get to it. Let's talk about how we're going to tell the world about your book. Let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Authors Allies Roundtable private podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik, and today we are going to talk about how to plan your marketing and promotions. Before you just start doing things willy-nilly and throwing spaghetti at the wall, we're going to sit down, do a brain dump of all the ideas, and then plan them out for the year. Make sure you either have the 10-step ebook handy or a notebook and a pencil. If you're driving, go ahead and listen, and you can do this when you get home. There are three main steps to planning your marketing that we're going to look at here. The first thing we're going to do is I want you to look backward and see what you've been doing over the last year. Does something you've done stand out as working well? Does something you've done stand out as not working at all? What tasks for marketing have you enjoyed doing versus what tasks have you not enjoyed doing? Jot all of these things down and then take a break for a few minutes, or even walk away and come back to it. This next step is we're going to do a brain dump. We're going to dream in color. I want you to dream as big as you possibly can. Maybe you want to do book signings one day. Maybe you want to be on stage and doing speaking, selling at events. Hey, you never know. It's possible maybe you want your book to be chosen as one of Oprah's or Reese Witherspoon's Book of the Month. Don't leave anything out. If you dream it, write it down. Okay, are we done with that task now? Now we're going to look forward. I want you to think about your current lifestyle. Maybe you have a 9 to 5 job. Maybe you have a part-time job, but you've got a couple of kids. You need to think about what's realistic in the next year for you to do. My suggestion would be to go back through this brain dump with a highlighter or put some stars next to or circle several of the things that you think you would like to do in the next year. One thing you could possibly do is pick an item for each month. But I want you to pick a date for these things. Put them on the calendar. And again, remember, use a pencil for this. Don't freak yourself out. We are dreaming and we are starting to plan so that we can work backward. Pick some dates for these items, and then you will know what months you're planning to work on those. Now that you've chosen some items for the months coming up, it's going to be a lot simpler for you to work backward and think about what tasks you will need to make happen in order to do these events. Once you have those tasks, you can then start breaking it down by week. It keeps your life a lot simpler. For the first few months, I suggest that you don't list any dream items more than one per month. Let's start slowly to see what you can handle, and you can always move up from there. If you have any questions on this, feel free to shoot me a direct message via social media or email me info@authorsallies.com. In the 10-step ebook that you probably already have a copy of, there is a blog with directions on this, a video, and there are some free planning sheets. Be sure to snag these if you need them. Stay tuned for the next episode coming right up. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Authors Allies Roundtable private podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Paciorek. Today, we are going to talk about the start of your media kit. We're going to discuss your one-sheet bio and your book sales sheet. These pieces are really important because they are the start of your media kit, which is going to be the basis of all of your marketing. The first thing that you're going to want to do in creating these pieces is start a folder on your computer. I would also suggest that you have a folder online just in case something happens to your computer. I personally use Google Docs, but I know a lot of people like the Microsoft 360 as well as Dropbox for this project. Within that folder, you're going to have various bits and pieces that are going to make up your media kit. Look for a headshot of yourself. Look for a fun photo of yourself to include. You're going to want front and back covers of your book. And once we do your sales sheet and your one-sheet biography, you're going to include the PDFs of those as well. You're going to also start a Google document, Word document, however you like to do that, so that we can gather the pieces and information for the one sheet and sales sheet. On this Google document, you're going to want to have your biography, and you can just copy this from your website if you already have one. Otherwise, go ahead and write out a biography. You're going to add your contact information, including all of your social media links that you would like to direct people to. You're going to have all the information for your book, including the title, the genre, the ISBN or the ASIN, the publication date, and the page numbers. While you're going to be tempted to put the price on here, just a quick note on that. If you think that your price is not really going to change, that's fine to put it in here. If you plan to run promotions, just make sure that if you send this information out to someone, that you've double checked your pricing before you've done that. The other thing that I would like you to include as part of this Google document would be potential interview topics and questions. The reason you're including those is that you may possibly be looking to either get interviewed on a podcast or with a blogger or maybe even some local media. And those are some things that they're going to be interested in hearing about. Okay, so I just went through a long list. Don't worry. If you check in the notes to this podcast, you are going to be able to get a copy of the e-version of this book, The 10 Steps to Creating Your Ultimate Book Marketing Plan. That will have everything you need in there, so you can just print that out and go down the list. For your one sheet and sales sheet, there are lots of great templates that you could possibly use on Canva for this. And I'm also going to suggest that when you go to create those, you Google it and you will be able to see some images and probably also some blogs and things on this as well. And I do have some blogs on this on the website, so those will be listed in the notes for you. And we've got some templates for the one sheet if you like, and we've also got an all-inclusive video workshop that you could snag if you're interested as well. So this is the start of your media kit, the folder with all of the bits and pieces, and then you're going to take those bits and pieces and build your one sheet biography and your book sales sheet. Those are each going to be one sheet, and that's what a lot of people are going to ask you for when you are requesting their assistance in promoting you and your book. That's it. Stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to talk about putting all of these pieces together a little more as your media kit. Hello, and welcome back to the Authors Allies Roundtable Private Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik. Today, we are going to talk about your media kit. In the last few episodes, we talked about all of the pieces started to get that kit together, and today we're going to start gathering them all into one spot. So we talked about having a folder on your computer and in the web that would have all the pieces and parts that would be comprising your marketing suite. So the next step to getting that all together as a media kit is to start another folder and simply call it your name, Media Kit. So mine is Rebecca Pachorik, Media Kit. Just use your name and Media Kit for this folder. So keep it simple. I'm a big fan of that philosophy as a general rule. Okay, now inside that folder, you are going to put the pieces that are specific to the media kit. So that one sheet biography that you did, put a copy of that in the media kit as a PDF. In addition, if you did a book sales sheet, put that in there as well. Put a copy of your book cover and put those high resolution photos. At minimum, this is what you're going to want in that media kit. Depending on who you are sending it to, they may ask for other bits or pieces, but those are the absolute minimum that you're going to want to have in there. So now that you have this folder together, you're probably asking me what the heck you're going to do with it. At least that's what I would be asking if I were you. So once you have this folder together, this is going to make it very simple to start pitching yourself for promotions. So you're going to send it to people who might be interested in talking and writing about your book. Those are going to be people like book talkers, bloggers, YouTubers, anyone who might be wanting to talk about your book, right? You're also going to include it on your website. If you have a website, I suggest that you have a media page, but if you have an about page, you could just put a simple link with a button on there saying click for my media kit and just have it go to that folder. Very simple. Another thing you're going to want to do is possibly send that folder out to people that you are pitching for book signings and other events, like, again, pitching yourself for a podcast. When you're pitching to bookshops, libraries, and event organizers in order to get speaking and signing events, they may also want to see this information. The information that you provide to other people to help promote you makes their job easier when they're promoting you. So they're going to be more likely to share these pieces if you make them very simple for them to gather. On our blog, we have a couple of posts about this. I'm going to put those in the notes for you. And if you need those templates for the author one sheet and the bio sheets and the sales sheets, those are going to be in there again as well. But again, you've already gathered the pieces. So this is the easy step. This is just putting them all into a specific folder and labeling it Media Kit. If you have any questions about this, feel free to shoot me a direct message on social media or email me info@authorsallies.com. Have a great day and stay tuned for the next episode.
Hello, welcome to the Authors Allies Roundtable Private Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about email. I know that a lot of authors are afraid of email, but it's really the best way to be able to keep up with your readers. Social media is rented ground, my friends. If you've been following me for any length of time, you've probably heard me say that on multiple occasions, but it's true. The big guns, especially Facebook and Instagram, are known for just dropping or blocking people's accounts at random, and you just don't know when that might happen to you. So I really encourage you to have an email list and keep growing it all the time. So there are a few different programs that you can use when it comes to email. And most of the programs out there are going to offer some sort of free trial so that you can take a little test drive and make sure that it is a program that you like. I've been using MailChimp for many years. I still don't have to pay for it because I was grandfathered in and I don't do anything real fancy, but they have it so that it is very simple. To me, it's kind of like a Canva for email. It's that simple with some drag and drop types of things. Constant Contact is also very simple, and I know a lot of people like Flowdesk as well, but there are many, many programs out there. So I encourage you to test a few and see which one feels good to you. So the way that you're going to grow that email list is going to be by producing a lead magnet. And that's just a fancy term for giving people something in order for collecting their email address. If you are a fiction author, the simplest thing to do is going to be to offer something along the lines of a free chapter or possibly a novella in order to collect their email. If you're nonfiction, you could do the same type of a thing for your book. You could do a free chapter, or you could do some worksheets or a checklist. Those are all very popular things to do in order to collect an email. And then the next question that I always get from the authors is, well, what do I send them? If I get their email address, that's great, but then what do I send them? So this is really up to you. And there are a lot of ways to do this. A lot of people will use and repurpose some of their things from social media, which is going to be a coming episode. But you can drop some personal notes in, let your readers know the types of things that are going on in your personal life. You can talk about your characters. You can do some behind the scenes and, share a little bit about your writing process. You can give them a sneak peek at some pages you're working on. It's really fun to me. I love when I get an email from an author and it shows like a page that they've written recently to one of their chapters. So just little bits and pieces. And you can also include promos. You certainly want to do promos if you've got a bundle for the holidays or anything special coming up. You definitely want to be able to tell them about that. So again, social media is rented ground. Take a little test drive of a few email programs and then just wing it. Even if you just start out sending one email a month, it doesn't have to be fancy. Work your way up to maybe, 2 or 3 times a month, maybe get up to weekly, but just sending something out once a month is a great start. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, info@authorsallies.com, and stay tuned for the next episode. See you soon.
Hello, friends. Thank you for joining in for the Authors Allies Roundtable private podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik, here to talk today about social media for authors. I know that's a hot topic. A lot of authors tell me they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have to do social media because it's hard, because it's stressful, because it's this, that, or the other, takes up too much time. But here's the thing. Social media is a great way for your readers to get to know you. And it's called social media for a reason, for you to be social. And a lot of people forget that and they just jump in there and they sell, sell, sell. And that is not what your readers want to see. What your readers want to see on your social media is a little bit more about you personally. Show your dog. You can see my poor little old dog in the background here. You can tell a little bit about me just from looking at the background of my office. And showing your behind the scenes, what your office looks like, where you like to write, where you live, what your desk looks like, what your favorite outfit is, whatever that is, those are the things people want to know. What's your favorite coffee mug look like? You know, everyone's into the Stanley Cup. This is actually what I drink out of. This is a Circle water bottle. They're the cartridges for water. And so, you know, this is my thing. This thing is 32 ounces. I drink 4 of these in a day. Yep, it's crazy, and I'm constantly running to the bathroom. But that's something that always starts a conversation. When I show this big old bottle, people ask where I got it. We start having a conversation about the best flavors. So there's a lot that you can talk about. You can talk about your characters. You can talk about your playlist. So many things. If you've got the ebook that this podcast is based off of, the 10 Steps to the Ultimate Book Marketing Plan, there are some links in there where you can get some free downloads from us with some items and topics about things that you can post about. I'll make sure that I put that in the notes again for this podcast. So if you don't have that, you can get that. But be sure to get that. The other thing I want to make sure and tell you about social media is don't freak out thinking you need to be everywhere. Yes, you can be everywhere. I actually have an agency social media scheduling program so that if I create one post for an author, I can put that post into the program and it can go out to all the social media sites at once, which is pretty fabulous, but it's also a bit, advanced for the general person, right? For you, if you're just getting started on social media, pick your personal favorite platform. If you like Instagram, go there. If TikTok is your thing, let's play in TikTok. If you're more of a Facebook person, just go there. Get it down. Get one platform down where you're feeling really comfortable and where you've created some relationships with people. And only then would you want to think about branching out. You don't have to. You don't have to do any of it, right? You can just give people that little bit of a taste of what you're about, what your personal life is about, just with one platform. So don't freak yourself out thinking you have to be everywhere. The third thing that I want to tell you about social media is that paid advertising is definitely helpful. Not only are the paid ads going to be helpful for getting your posts out there faster, but when you pay to play, they'll also show your other things a little bit more often. Now, we're actually going to have a separate podcast on paid ads and promotions, but I just want to put that bug in your ear for something to think about once you get comfortable on a program. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or shoot me a DM. You can also email me info@authorsallies.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.
Hello, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Authors Allies Roundtable private podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Paciorek. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. So, the last several episodes, we have been talking about all things getting your media kit together, getting your email list set up, doing your author sales sheets. We are really on a roll for getting that marketing suite together that you need to be an author or a speaker. So the next question becomes, where do you host all of these things, right? So this is when we want to start talking about having a website. If you don't have a website yet, you could use your LinkedIn to be sort of a hub. However, there are so many opportunities out there to do a free website, to do a simple website. I have been using Wix. I know there are people that go as simple as Weebly, Squarespace, and then there are people doing WordPress. So it really depends on how much money you want to spend and how much tech energy you want to be able to expend on keeping your website up. For many years, I have been using Wix. Like I said, that MailChimp felt like the drag and drop for me for email. Wix to me is a very simple drag and drop style of a website. And I'm not a real high tech person. I stay up to date on things, but I'm certainly not into coding or anything like that. So for me, Wix is very simple. What I encourage you to do is to picture your website sort of like an old time wagon wheel, okay? So your website is that hub, it's that middle of the wheel. And then the spokes going out are going to be the things like your social media, a podcast, your media kit, your contact page, Amazon or wherever they can buy your books, or you can sell them directly there on your site. So again, the middle is that hub, and all of the things on your website are those spokes. I encourage you to keep it simple. All of these marketing things that we're doing, the simpler you can keep them, the more stress-free your life will be. Because let's face it, you are not in this business to be a marketer. You're in this business to write a book. The marketing is where people like me come in. And so if you're going to be doing it yourself, simpler, automated, all of those things are going to be necessary. And you can pay people to do these sites and things for you. They could just set it up and then you could keep it rolling. So there, again, are a lot of options. And do some investigations. Talk to some other author friends or people you know who are entrepreneurs and have websites and see what other people are experiencing. So I encourage you to pull out a notebook and jot down the things you want to have on your website, make a few notes. The other thing you can do is if you've gotten our 10-step ebook and printed that out, you'll notice that we are going along through the book basically with this podcast. And so all of the worksheets are in that book for you. If you need that, shoot me an email, info@authorsallies.com, and I'll get you a copy of the workbook if you haven't already done that. So start thinking about your website. The middle is the hub. The spokes, like the wheel, are going out to all of the bits and pieces of the site, and keep it simple. Stay tuned. We will be back with another episode shortly.
Hey, friends. I hope you're having a great day. I'm Rebecca Pachorik, your host of the Authors Allies Roundtable private podcast. Thanks for joining us. So today we are going to talk about something that is every author's favorite topic: free promotions. Yes, publicity is something that's really important when you're an author. And because most of us are on a budget and not rich and famous yet, we are looking for some promotions that are going to be inexpensive or even free, right? I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure that I can get you some of my best tips and ideas right here. Okay, so here is what we're going to be talking about. One of my favorite ways to get some free publicity is guesting on podcasts. There are so many podcasts out there today, and they are all looking for fabulous guests. If you are a fiction author, you're going to be wanting to look for author-specific podcasts, podcasts for readers, podcasts for the general art of writing, okay? There's plenty of these out there to look at. If you're a nonfiction author, this expands your horizons a little bit more because not only can you look for author podcasts, but in addition, you can search for podcasts that are going to be relevant to your field of work. So if you wrote a book on marketing, you could look for marketing podcasts. If you wrote a book on teaching, you could look for a teaching podcast. Same thing with coaching. Whatever you wrote about, this is what you're going to be able to look for podcasts for. If you have a hard time at the thought of pitching yourself to podcasts, or maybe you just don't have enough time for that, you could sign up with a program like podmatch.com. That is not going to be free, but it's sort of like a dating app for podcasters. And this is something that can hook you up with a potential podcast without you having to do quite as much work. So it's something that could be worth $25 a month to see if it helps you out. This, pitching yourself to podcasts, is where those media kits come in. We created those media kit folders as well as the sales pages and our author bios earlier in this podcast. These are the things you're going to use to send when you're pitching yourself to be on a podcast. A couple of other things that you might try to do when you are working on your promotional strategy is talk to libraries. A lot of libraries, the local libraries, are looking for speakers as well, and they may be able to host you for an event or a book signing. In addition, the local bookstores are also usually open to having author events, especially if you're willing to promote it to all of your friends, family, and readers. Local associations are another place to check, whether it's a Rotary or possibly a women's networking association. A lot of associations are happy to host a free speaker that they don't have to pay and would be willing to allow you to have a table at the back of the room to sell and sign your books. A couple of other things you could try would be doing your own book bundles and promoting those on your social media, website, and your email list. And by that, I mean actually bundling several of your books together to sell them, or bundling your book with some additional unreleased material, such as book club questions, bonus chapters, and the like. This is a way for you to create some excitement around your product and your books while also not having to shell out money for paid advertising. A final thing you might want to do is look on someplace like BookFunnel or in the various author Facebook groups you may be involved in for other people who are willing to do a newsletter swap or social media swap and combine your books with theirs to do some bundles. I've been on some really fun, cozy mystery groups where they've bundled a bunch of their books together, and it's just been really fun to get to know the authors that way, as well as get a nice little stack of some of my favorite reads. BookFunnels also has a section on there where you can hook up with other people and do some swaps. I'm sure you've heard of the Stuff Your Kindle days. Getting involved in something like that is a great way to spread the news about your book without having to outlay a bunch of money. Remember, those media kits, the sales sheets, and the author bios that we did at the beginning of this podcast series, again, those are the perfect things for you to use when you are promoting yourself for these events. Stay tuned because next up is going to be paid advertising options for you. And take a look at the show notes to make sure that you have your free ebook where you can take notes on all of these topics as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Hey, friends. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Authors Allies Private Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think is really important if you want to be a career author. If you want to be a career author, meaning more than one book, probably a series, as that's really the best way to become a career author, you are going to have to put in a little money. There you go. I said it. You're going to really need to spend a little bit of money to do a few ads and some promotions. And if you do this strategically, you will make the money back and you will find it's worth it in the end. This is going to be a fairly short episode because I'm just going to give you a few ideas here. And I have plenty of blogs and other videos on this topic and a lot of information on my Facebook channel. And I'm also happy to chat with you if you need some suggestions. The first thing is going to be to do paid ads on Facebook and Amazon. Again, if you do these strategically, you will eventually make money. If you're not making money on paid ads, then the ads are not right in some way, shape, or form. There is a system that I use called promo stacking, and that is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to have various promotions running at one time. Some are going to be paid, some are not going to be paid, but these are going to increase your odds of selling a lot of books, particularly on Amazon, because Amazon, the more books you sell, the more they show your book to people. So it's really an endless cycle on there, and one that you can take advantage of using their ads. And again, a strategic way to do that. There are several great people out there that I follow. Brian Cohen, Matthew Holmes, and also the Writing Wives, great people to follow if you want to learn how to do those ads. Mark Dawson also has some wonderful classes on that. Goodreads does some giveaways that you can partake in, some paid giveaways for that. You can also bundle your books together and do some of your own promotions by selling books in a package. The other thing that you can do is do some bundles with other people. Sometimes those are paid and sometimes they're free, just authors, hooking up with each other. But those are a great way to get your book out there by using other people's audiences. And if you use BookFunnels got some author swap forums and boards in there, and those can be very helpful for you. The other way that you're going to spend a little money on paid ads and promotion is if you want to partake in anything like a farmer's market, an art fair, things like that. They typically have a table fee, and usually those table fees can be made up with the sale of a few books. And one thing to keep in mind, if you are a series author, which again, I do think is the best way to become an author as a sustainable income, keep in mind that as you're doing ads and things like that, keep that read through in mind. You may be advertising just that first book, but try to figure out your read through, and there are all sorts of formulas like that. That's probably its own whole podcast thing in and of itself. But keep the read through in mind. And if you are spending a little money on book one, think about how many people are going to go on and buy your other books and how much you're going to make from that. That's all for today. Stay tuned for our next episode. Be sure to check out the notes for anything you might need and shoot me an email at info@authorsallies.com if you have any questions. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great day.
Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in to our very last episode of our private podcast for Authors Allies Roundtable. I'm your host, Rebecca Pachorik. We appreciate you so much for joining us these last episodes to learn more about how to market your book. Let's see here. We have gone through planning your marketing. We've talked about your one sheet biography, your sales sheet. We've talked about putting everything together in a media kit. We talked about simple websites, social media posting, podcast guesting, ads and promotions, book tours, in-person events. Oh my goodness, right? So we've covered a lot of ground in this podcast. Hopefully you did get your copy of the 10 steps to creating the ultimate book marketing plan. As you can see, I have marked mine up while we've been going along in the podcast here. If you didn't get it yet, make sure you check out the notes section and you can go in and request your copy of that. We would love for you to join us in the Authors Allies Roundtable membership, where we're going to work together to build these pieces 1 month at a time. If that is something that you're interested in, there should be a link in the notes for that. You can also reach out and contact us for one-to-one services if you need more help than that. And remember, we're also a digital marketing agency, so we can pretty much do any online business management tasks that you have. Be sure you're following us on social media and that you're on our email list because we do give a lot of great free information out. Thanks again for following along on our private podcast. Hope to see you out there in the book world. Have a great day.